Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Cornerstone. Nathan Reynolds wiped sweat from his brow as he inspected the foundation of his latest construction project. At 42, he built Cornerstone Construction into one of the most respected firms in Colorado, transforming from a hands-on contractor to the CEO of a thriving business. But unlike many executives, Nathan still visited sites regularly, getting his hands dirty alongside his crews. "Looking solid, boss," said Hector, his foreman of 15 years. Nathan nodded, satisfaction evident in his weathered features. 15 years in this business taught me one thing. You build on sand, you're asking for trouble. The irony wasn't lost on him as he drove home that evening. For all his expertise with physical foundations, he'd failed to see the cracks forming in his own family. His sprawling ranch-style home greeted him with unusual silence. Typically, Brooke, his wife of 22 years, would be preparing dinner while their daughter Zoe video chatted at full volume with friends. Today, only emptiness echoed through the halls. Nathan checked his watch, 6:30 p.m. He'd texted Brooke he'd be home early for once. Their 20th anniversary approached in 2 months, and he wanted to surprise her with news about the lakeside property he'd been quietly saving for. 5 years of disciplined saving had finally put their dream vacation home within reach. When he heard tires on the gravel driveway 30 minutes later, Nathan moved to the window. His breath caught at the sight of a gleaming burgundy Jaguar F-Type convertible pulling up. Zoe emerged from the passenger side, laughing as she tossed her blonde hair. From the driver's seat unfolded a tall man with meticulously styled dark hair and a tailor-made suit. Brooke exited from the back, her face flushed with excitement. Nathan stepped onto the porch, confusion evident. "Nice car. Rental." Brooke rushed forward, her eyes sparkling in a way Nathan hadn't seen in years. "Isn't it magnificent?" "It's Zoe's." "Well, technically it's in my name for insurance purposes, but..." "Mine." Zoe squealed, clutching the keys. "Dad, can you believe it? It's the most amazing thing ever." The tall stranger approached with practiced confidence, extending his hand. "Preston Knox. I've been helping the ladies find the perfect vehicle. I must say, they have excellent taste." Nathan shook the man's hand mechanically, his mind racing. "Preston, nice to meet you. I wasn't aware we were in the market for a car, especially not one that must have cost." "Only $110,000, Brooke interjected casually. "And that's after Preston's special discount." Nathan's blood ran cold. $110,000? Where did that money come from? An uncomfortable silence descended. Zoe suddenly became fascinated with her phone. Preston cleared his throat and mentioned something about paperwork in the car. Brooke touched Nathan's arm, steering him toward the house. "Let's talk inside. It's not a big deal." Once in the kitchen, Brooke's demeanor shifted from excitement to defensive irritation. "I used the house fund." "You what?" Nathan's voice remained dangerously quiet. "Zoe needed this, Nathan. She's starting her internship at Bellamy Communications next month. Image matters in that industry. So you took our house savings, money we've been putting away for 5 years, without discussing it with me?" Zoe entered the kitchen, her initial excitement dimming at the tension. "Dad, all my friends have nice cars. I can't show up in that ancient Honda anymore." "Ancient? It's 4 years old and perfectly functional," Nathan countered. "You don't understand how things work now," Brooke scoffed. "You can just save again. Your young daughter needs this more than we need some vacation home we might use twice a year." "You had no right." "I had every right," Brooke interrupted, laughing dismissively. "My name is on that account too. Besides, it's done now." Nathan fell silent, studying the two women before him. His daughter, once so grounded despite their comfortable lifestyle, now stood before him entitled and dismissive. His wife, whom he'd built a life with from nothing, regarded him with something bordering on contempt. Something fundamental had shifted while he wasn't paying attention. "You're right," he finally said, a strange smile forming. "What's done is done." Brooke seemed surprised by his capitulation, but quickly recovered. "I'm glad you understand. Preston is waiting to finalize the paperwork. I told him you'd be reasonable." Nathan nodded slowly. "I'll handle it." As Brooke and Zoe returned outside, Nathan pulled out his phone and made a call to his bank. The pleasant voice that answered had no idea the chain of events she was about to set in motion. "This is Nathan Reynolds. I need to discuss some unusual activity on my accounts." Chapter 2. Fault lines. Nathan spent the night in his home office, methodically examining 5 years of financial statements, text messages, and emails. The betrayal ran deeper than a single unauthorized withdrawal. Dozens of suspicious transactions dotted their joint accounts. Spa weekends Brooke had claimed were work retreats, shopping sprees disguised as household expenses, and cash withdrawals that disappeared without explanation. More disturbing were the texts between Brooke and Preston dating back nearly 8 months. Found another one. Read a message from Preston 3 months ago. Husband works construction. Wife desperate to impress her friends. Thinking Portia Kian. Brooke had replied, "Perfect. Use the country club connection like last time." Nathan's hands trembled with rage. His wife wasn't just having an affair. She and Preston were running a targeted luxury car scheme, identifying wealthy but neglected wives, seducing them, and manipulating them into making extravagant purchases. The commissions would be substantial. By dawn, Nathan had pieced together the extent of their operation. Preston Knox wasn't even the man's real name. Driver's license records identified him as Peter Kessler, with addresses in 4 different states over 5 years and a sealed court case in Nevada. Nathan called his assistant as soon as business hours began. "Lisa, cancel my meetings today. Family emergency." After a pause, he added, "And get me Howard Bellamy's direct number." Howard Bellamy owned Bellamy Communications, where Zoe was set to begin her coveted internship. Few knew that Nathan had built Howard's mountain retreat at cost 7 years earlier when the media mogul was cash-strapped during a divorce. Howard owed him. Also, Nathan continued, "Contact Sandra at Western Union Bank. Tell her I need full documentation on the linkages between all my personal and business accounts." By noon, Nathan had learned several crucial facts. First, Brooke had withdrawn the money by claiming they were expediting their home construction plans. Second, the luxury car dealership where Preston worked had a history of customer complaints about predatory financing. Third, and most important, the withdrawal had triggered an automatic notification to several accounts Brooke didn't know existed. Nathan's construction background had taught him to always build redundancies into important systems. The same principle had guided his financial planning. That evening, Nathan returned home to find Brooke and Zoe admiring the Jaguar in the driveway. Preston's arm was draped casually around Brooke's waist. "Nathan." Brooke quickly stepped away from Preston. "We were just discussing the extended warranty options." "Fascinating," Nathan replied with a placid smile. "Preston, could I trouble you for your business card? I have some associates who might be interested in your services." Preston smoothly produced a glossy card. "Always happy to get a referral, Nathan. Your wife has been singing your praises." "Has she now?" Nathan pocketed the card. "Brooke has always been supportive of my work. That's why I'm surprised she didn't consult me before liquidating our house fund." An awkward silence descended. Zoe shifted uncomfortably. "Actually, Dad," she began, "Preston was telling me about financing options. I could make payments." "No need," Nathan interrupted. "The money's spent. Water under the bridge." Later that night, as Brooke slept beside him, Nathan sent a series of carefully crafted emails, one to Howard Bellamy, one to his attorney, and one to a former client who now worked for the State Financial Regulatory Board. Then he composed a detailed message to his bank with specific instructions about their accounts. Beneath his calm exterior, Nathan was calculating structural loads, identifying weak points, and planning a controlled demolition of the life Brooke and Preston thought they were building. Chapter 3. Hidden Supports. Monday morning arrived with Brooke unusually attentive, preparing Nathan's favorite breakfast and inquiring about his workday. Her sudden solicitousness only confirmed his suspicions. "You seem cheerful," Nathan observed, sipping his coffee. "Why wouldn't I be?" Brooke kissed his cheek. "Beautiful day, successful husband, daughter with an amazing new opportunity. Life is good." Nathan merely nodded. "Speaking of opportunities, I got a call from Howard Bellamy yesterday." Brooke's hand paused midair, coffee pot suspended. "Oh, he's personally overseeing Zoe's internship now. Mentioned something about executive training." The tension in Brooke's shoulders visibly eased. "That's wonderful news." Nathan finished his breakfast in silence, watching his wife's performative domesticity. For 22 years, he'd believed they were building something meaningful together. Now he recognized the facade for what it was. At the office, Nathan called in his most trusted employees. Lisa, his executive assistant, Marcus, his chief financial officer, and Hector, his site foreman. I need absolute discretion, Nathan began, closing his office door. I'm restructuring some aspects of the business and my personal affairs. Over the next 2 hours, he outlined specific tasks for each of them. Lisa would coordinate with their attorney to amend certain documents. Marcus would implement financial partitioning between company divisions. Hector would accelerate the timeline on Project Lakeview, the vacation property development where Nathan had planned to build his and Brooke's dream home. Any questions? Nathan asked when he finished. Marcus looked concerned. This seems defensive, Nathan. Is everything okay? Perfect timing, actually, Nathan replied evenly. The market's shifting. We need to solidify our position. After they left, Nathan received a call from a blocked number. Mr. Reynolds? This is Detective Mercer with Financial Crimes. We received your documentation regarding potentially fraudulent automotive financing practices. Could you come in to make a formal statement? Happily, Nathan replied. But I'd like to provide additional evidence first. Give me 2 weeks. That evening, Nathan arrived home to find Preston's Aston Martin parked beside the Jaguar. Through the kitchen window, he observed Brooke, Zoe, and Preston laughing over wine. The domesticity of the scene, another man comfortably ensconced in his home, caused a surge of cold fury. Nathan entered with deliberate noise. The conversation halted abruptly. Nathan, Brooke exclaimed. Preston was just helping Zoe understand her internship expectations. At Bellamy Communications? Nathan asked innocently. I wasn't aware you had media connections, Preston. Preston recovered smoothly. My client roster includes several Bellamy executives. Small world. Tiny, Nathan agreed. Howard mentioned he's never heard of you when we played golf Sunday. A flicker of unease crossed Preston's face. Nathan turned to Zoe. Howard's particularly excited about your social media background. He's launching a new youth-oriented campaign. Zoe beamed. Really? That sounds perfect. It does, Nathan agreed, watching Preston and Brooke exchange subtle glances. In fact, he suggested you might want to document your first day on Instagram. The car will make quite an impression. The trap was baited. Nathan observed as Preston subtly encouraged this idea, suggesting particular locations for photos. Exactly as Nathan had anticipated. After Preston departed, Nathan retreated to his workshop in the basement, a sanctuary where he'd crafted furniture for their home over the years. There, surrounded by the honest materials of his trade, he reviewed the day's developments. His bank had confirmed. The house fund had been just the beginning. Brooke had been siphoning money for months, small amounts that wouldn't trigger attention. The vacation property fund was merely the largest single withdrawal. Nathan ran his hand over a half-finished mahogany table he'd been crafting for their anniversary. 20 years of marriage, ending not with celebration but calculated vengeance. He could almost pity Brooke if fury didn't overwhelm any softer emotion. His phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Background check complete on Preston Knox/Peter Kessler. Report ready when you are. Findings significant. Nathan replied simply. Proceed with phase 2. As he climbed the stairs later that night, Nathan heard Brooke on the phone in their bedroom, her voice low. It worked perfectly, she was saying. He actually thinks I believe the anniversary surprise is still happening. No, he has no idea about us or the other accounts. Of course I'm sure. Nathan stepped deliberately on the creaky stair. The conversation ended abruptly. In bed, Brooke curled against him with unusual affection. I've been thinking, she murmured. We should plan a trip for our anniversary. Just the 2 of us. Nathan stroked her hair, his voice gentle despite the ice in his veins. I'd like that. I have something special planned. Me too, Brooke whispered, kissing him before turning away. In the darkness, Nathan smiled grimly. Brooke had no idea that her actions had triggered contingencies he'd established years ago, financial tripwires designed to protect their assets if anything happened to him. Those same systems now served a different purpose. The foundation of Brooke's deception was compromised. She simply didn't know it yet. Chapter 4. Controlled Collapse. On Thursday morning, Nathan arranged to leave work early, telling Brooke he had client meetings that would run late. Instead, he followed Brooke to a secluded mountain resort where she met Preston. The intimacy between them left no doubt about their relationship. From his parked truck, Nathan photographed their meeting, but his focus wasn't on gathering evidence of infidelity. He was documenting their conversation with a directional microphone borrowed from a security contractor friend. The Reynolds job is almost complete, Preston was saying. Once the internship starts, we move to phase 2. Don't call it that, Brooke replied. You make it sound so calculated. Preston laughed. Isn't it? We identified a wealthy mark. You extracted significant funds. I secured my commission. Nathan is different, Brooke insisted. He's not like the others. They're all the same, darling. Hardworking men who neglect their wives and daughters for their precious businesses. He deserves this. Nathan watched as Preston outlined their business model, targeting successful men with strained family relationships, using luxury purchases to extract wealth through commissions and kickbacks. Brooke had apparently been both victim and accomplice for months before becoming Preston's partner. More disturbing was hearing how they'd manipulated Zoe, cultivating her materialism and subtly turning her against Nathan by emphasizing his frequent absences and old-fashioned values. The daughter is always key, Preston explained. Once she's aligned with the mother, the father inevitably caves to avoid being the villain. Nathan's hands tightened on the steering wheel as Preston detailed his next steps, encouraging Zoe to request her own apartment near her internship, which would necessitate another significant expenditure. When they departed, Nathan followed Preston rather than Brooke. The luxury car salesman drove to an upscale apartment complex where he met another woman who greeted him with the same familiarity Brooke had shown. Nathan photographed this encounter too. By evening, Nathan had compiled everything into a comprehensive file. But rather than confronting Brooke immediately, he continued his methodical approach. This wasn't about a quick, emotional confrontation. This was about systematic dismantling. The following day, Nathan met with Sandra from Western Union Bank. Your suspicions were correct, Mr. Reynolds, she confirmed. The account access patterns suggest coordinated activity beyond normal household management. We've documented everything as you requested. And the transaction reversibility? Sandra hesitated. Technically, since Mrs. Reynolds is a joint account holder, she had authorization. However, given the circumstances and our long relationship, we can implement the contingency plan you outlined. Perfect. Proceed when I give the signal, not before. That night, as Brooke chatted about Zoe's upcoming internship, Nathan casually mentioned, I've been thinking about investing in property again. The market's looking promising. Brooke nearly choked on her wine. Really? Even after? I mean, we should probably rebuild our savings first. Actually, Nathan replied, I've been considering liquidating some of my business holdings. Freeing up capital. The bait was set. He observed the calculating look that crossed Brooke's face before she carefully masked it. That sounds smart, she agreed too quickly. You've always had good business instincts. Later, Nathan overheard her whispering on the phone. It's happening sooner than we thought. He's liquidating business assets. Saturday morning, Preston arrived unexpectedly with coffee and pastries. Thought I'd drop by to see how Zoe's enjoying the car. Nathan welcomed him with false warmth. Perfect timing. I was just telling Brooke about some investment opportunities. You have a financial background, don't you, Preston? Preston's smile never reached his eyes. Some experience, yes? Happy to offer insights. In his office, Nathan pulled up fabricated documents showing substantial business holdings. I'm considering diversifying, Nathan explained. Moving capital from construction into more liquid investments. Preston studied the documents with poorly concealed interest. Smart move. Actually, I have some clients in wealth management who would love to discuss options with you. I bet you do, Nathan replied pleasantly. Perhaps we could meet them together? Say next Friday. As anticipated, Preston eagerly arranged the meeting. Nathan knew it would never happen. It was merely another string in the web he was weaving. After Preston left, Nathan drove to Howard Bellamy's office for a private meeting. She's talented, Howard acknowledged after reviewing Zoe's portfolio. But so are dozens of other applicants without the attitude problems your investigator uncovered. Nathan nodded grimly. I know. That's why I need your help teaching her a crucial lesson. When he returned home, Nathan found Zoe photographing herself beside the Jaguar. Perfect timing, Dad, she called. Which shot should I post before my internship starts? Preston says first impressions are everything. Nathan studied his daughter, the entitlement that had replaced her once genuine ambition, the designer clothes that had supplanted her practical attire, the calculating expression so similar to Brooke's. The car certainly makes a statement, he agreed. But Howard mentioned image consciousness at Bellamy Communications runs deeper than vehicles. What do you mean? Digital footprint. The executive team reviews all interns' social media. They're particularly concerned about materialistic displays. Panic flashed across Zoe's face. But Preston said. Preston isn't in media, Nathan pointed out quietly. Perhaps his advice isn't applicable to this particular industry. The seed of doubt planted, Nathan watched realization dawn on Zoe's face. For the first time in months, she looked uncertain rather than entitled. That night, Nathan completed the final preparations for what he'd come to think of as the excavation, the systematic removal of deception from his life, no matter the cost. Chapter 5, Exposed Beams. On Monday morning, Zoe left early for her first day at Bellamy Communications, driving the Jaguar despite her new reservations. Nathan had ensured her executive training would be demanding but fair. Howard had agreed to mentor her genuinely, provided she earned it through merit rather than manipulation. Good luck today, Nathan called as she departed. Remember, substance over style. Brooke emerged from their bedroom, dressed more formally than usual. I'm meeting clients for brunch, she explained vaguely. Preston's clients? Nathan asked mildly. Brooke froze momentarily before recovering. Marketing contacts, actually. For my interior design business. The business that had secured exactly 3 clients in 5 years, Nathan thought, but didn't say. Instead, he kissed her cheek. Wonderful. By the way, I transferred some funds yesterday for the Lakeview project. You might see the notification. After she left, Nathan drove to Cornerstone Construction's headquarters, where Marcus and Lisa awaited him in the conference room. Everything's prepared, Marcus confirmed. The corporate restructuring documents are ready for your signature. Nathan reviewed the papers carefully. The reorganization would separate his personal assets from the business while creating a new subsidiary specifically for the Lakeview development. And the property holding company? He asked. Lisa handed him another folder. Established as instructed. Reynolds Foundations LLC now legally holds the Lakeview property, with the ownership structure you specified. By noon, Nathan had effectively insulated his business interests from any potential fallout. His next stop was the district attorney's office, where he met with a prosecutor specializing in financial crimes. This is quite a file, Mr. Reynolds, the prosecutor noted, reviewing the documents Nathan had compiled. Multiple potential charges, fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud across state lines. I'm not interested in pressing charges yet, Nathan clarified. This meeting is to establish a record and understand my options. Smart approach, the prosecutor agreed. Given the interstate nature of some activities, you could potentially involve federal authorities. Nathan's next appointment took him to a luxury car dealership, a direct competitor to Preston's employer. The sales manager greeted him warmly. Mr. Reynolds, Preston Knox sent you, correct? In a manner of speaking, Nathan replied. I understand you two have history. The manager's expression darkened. That's one way to put it. He poached clients, manipulated inventory records, and left us with regulatory issues. What? I believe he's using similar tactics at his current dealership, potentially involving my wife. Understanding dawned on the manager's face. The authorities never acted because individual victims wouldn't testify. Too embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed, Nathan stated flatly. I'm documenting everything. By late afternoon, Nathan had spoken with 3 former clients of Preston's, each sharing similar stories of manipulative sales tactics and personal entanglements. More importantly, he'd obtained copies of dealership records showing irregular commission structures and financing arrangements. When Nathan returned home, he found Zoe sitting dejectedly at the kitchen island, still in her professional attire. Tough first day? He asked, setting down his briefcase. Mr. Bellamy put me on a research project instead of the social media team, she complained. Said I needed to understand the business fundamentals before touching accounts. Howard's old school, Nathan replied. He believes in earning positions. Preston said my portfolio would guarantee the creative team, Zoe muttered. He was wrong about everything. Nathan considered his next words carefully. Has Preston been wrong about other things? Zoe looked up sharply. What do you mean? The car, for instance. Was that your idea or his? A flicker of uncertainty crossed Zoe's face. He said I deserved it. That you could easily afford it, but were being stubborn. Did he also suggest where you should take photos with it? Specific backgrounds, locations? Zoe's expression shifted from confusion to dawning comprehension. How did you know that? Because Preston Knox isn't who he pretends to be, Nathan said gently. His real name is Peter Kessler. He's been investigated twice for predatory sales tactics. That's ridiculous, Zoe protested, but with less conviction than Nathan expected. Is it? How did you meet him? Think carefully. Zoe frowned, considering. Mom introduced us at the country club. She said he was an old friend's brother. Your mother met him 8 months ago through a client, Nathan corrected. There was no old friend. Nathan placed his phone on the counter, displaying text messages between Brooke and Preston discussing how to manipulate Zoe. The car wasn't about your needs, Nathan explained quietly. It was about Preston's commission and your mother's relationship with him. Color drained from Zoe's face as she scrolled through the messages. These could be fake, she whispered, but her voice betrayed her. Call Howard Bellamy, Nathan suggested. Ask him who suggested your internship application be expedited. It wasn't Preston's connections. As Zoe retreated to her room, visibly shaken, Nathan received a text from Brooke, working late with clients. Don't wait up. He replied, no problem. I'm finalizing the Lakeview investment. Documents ready for signature tomorrow. Within minutes, Brooke responded. Actually, I can come home now. See you soon. Nathan smiled grimly as he prepared dinner. The foundation was crumbling exactly as designed. When Brooke arrived home, she appeared surprised to find Zoe absent from the dining room. She's not feeling well, Nathan explained. First day intensity at Bellamy Communications. Oh, did something happen? Brooke asked too casually. Howard Bellamy happened, Nathan replied, serving pasta. Apparently, he believes in meritocracy rather than connections. Brooke's fork paused midair. I'm sure she'll adjust. Undoubtedly. By the way, I've authorized the first major transfer for Lakeview tomorrow. We should discuss plans. Brooke's eyes lit with poorly concealed interest. How much are we investing? Initially, $2 million. The property alone is worth $1.5. Nathan watched the calculation behind Brooke's eyes, the mental arithmetic of potential gains, not from building their dream home, but from whatever scheme she and Preston had devised. That's substantial, she managed. Are you sure the business can sustain that withdrawal? Cornerstone has never been stronger, Nathan assured her. 20 years of building solid foundations pays off eventually. Later that night, Nathan silently recorded Brooke's whispered phone conversation from the bathroom. It's happening tomorrow. $2 million initial transfer. Yes, I can get the routing information. No, he suspects nothing. The final pieces were in place. Tomorrow would bring the controlled demolition of the life Brooke thought she was orchestrating. Chapter 6. Load-bearing truths. Tuesday dawned with unseasonable rain, drumming against the windows as Nathan prepared breakfast. Zoe emerged from her room hollow-eyed, having clearly slept little. Dad, she began hesitantly. I called Mr. Bellamy last night. Nathan continued whisking eggs. And he said you helped secure my internship. That Preston had nothing to do with it. She swallowed hard. And that the car dealership has been under investigation for predatory sales practices. I see. Why didn't you just tell me everything? Tears welled in her eyes. Why let me believe Preston's lies? Nathan set down the whisk and faced his daughter. Would you have believed me over him? Over your mother? Zoe's silence was answer enough. Some lessons can't be taught, only experienced, Nathan continued quietly. You needed to see the manipulation yourself. What are you going to do? Zoe asked, wiping her eyes. Finish what they started, Nathan replied cryptically. Go to your internship. Focus on learning, not appearances. After Zoe left, Brooke emerged dressed for success in a power suit Nathan had never seen before. Important meeting? He inquired. Just client presentations, she replied, pouring coffee. Will you be handling the Lakeview transfer this morning? Already initiated, Nathan confirmed. The funds should clear by noon. I'll need your signature on some final documents this evening. Brooke's smile didn't reach her eyes. I can't wait to see the plans. After she departed, Nathan called Marcus. Is everything in position? Exactly as you instructed, his CFO confirmed. The funds appear to be transferring to the Lakeview account, but are actually routing through the verification holding pattern. Traceable but untouchable. Perfect. And Lisa? Standing by with the documentation packages. Detective Mercer is aware of the timeline. At precisely 11:30 a.m., Nathan's phone rang. a number he recognized as Preston's dealership. Mr. Reynolds? This is Samantha from Luxury Motors Financing Department. We're processing the wire transfer for your purchase, but need additional authorization. Purchase. Nathan feigned confusion. I haven't bought anything from Luxury Motors. A pause. Sir, we have purchase documents for a 2025 Aston Martin DBX signed by you and your wife this morning. The wire transfer from your Lakeview Development account has been initiated but requires secondary confirmation. I see, Nathan replied calmly. There must be some confusion. Could you email me copies of these documents immediately? Within minutes, Nathan was reviewing forged purchase documents bearing a reasonable facsimile of his signature. The sophisticated fraud confirmed his suspicions. Brooke and Preston hadn't just taken his house fund. They were attempting to divert the much larger Lakeview investment. Nathan immediately called the fraud department at Western Union Bank, authorizing the contingency plan they prepared. Then he contacted Detective Mercer. It's happening exactly as I predicted, Nathan explained. The fraudulent purchase attempt, the forged signatures, the diverted wire transfer. Everything's documented. Do you want us to make arrests today? Mercer asked. Not yet, Nathan replied. Let's see how deep this goes. I want to be present when you confront them. By noon, Nathan had received notification that the fraudulent transfer had been blocked and flagged. His next call was to Howard Bellamy. Is Zoe still there? Nathan asked. In the research department, Howard confirmed. Actually showing promise when properly challenged. Good. Keep her there until I call again. She shouldn't be home for what's coming. At 2 p.m., Nathan's phone exploded with calls and texts from Brooke, each more frantic than the last. Something's wrong with the transfer. The bank is asking strange questions. Call me immediately. Nathan responded to none of them, instead driving to Luxury Motors where he met Detective Mercer in the parking lot. Preston Knox has been in his office making panic calls for the past hour, Mercer reported. We have audio surveillance as authorized by the warrant. Inside, they found Preston frantically shredding documents as a colleague attempted to calm him. Mr. Knox, Detective Mercer announced. Or do you prefer Peter Kessler? We have some questions about fraudulent financing practices. Preston's face drained of color as he recognized Nathan standing beside the detective. This is a misunderstanding, he stammered. A paperwork error, involving forged signatures and unauthorized transfers? Nathan asked quietly. Seems rather elaborate for a clerical mistake. As officers began documenting evidence throughout Preston's office, Nathan stepped closer to the man who had systematically worked to destroy his family. You should have researched me more thoroughly, Nathan said conversationally. I build things for a living. I understand structural integrity better than most. Fear flickered in Preston's eyes. Nathan, listen. When you target a builder, Nathan continued as if Preston hadn't spoken. You should ensure his foundation isn't stronger than your scheme. Detective Mercer approached with handcuffs. Mr. Kessler, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. You have the right to remain silent. As Preston was led away, Nathan received a text from Brooke. Where are you? The bank froze all our accounts. They're saying something about fraud investigation. Nathan drove home to find Brooke pacing frantically in their living room, designer purse still clutched in her white-knuckled grip. What the hell is happening? She demanded when Nathan entered. The bank manager said you authorized a fraud investigation. Sit down, Brooke, Nathan said quietly. I will not sit down. $2 million is missing. Our accounts are frozen, and Preston isn't answering his phone. Preston is being arrested, Nathan stated flatly. And the money isn't missing. It was never transferred because I anticipated your attempt to steal it. Brooke's indignation transformed into calculation. What are you talking about? Nathan placed his phone on the coffee table, playing a recording of Brooke's conversation with Preston about diverting the Lakeview funds. No, he suspects nothing. Brooke's voice echoed in their living room. Once the transfer clears, we can move everything offshore through the shell company. Brooke sank onto the sofa, her facade crumbling. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Nathan interrupted. You and Preston identified me as a mark. You manipulated our daughter. You systematically drained accounts while planning a much larger theft. It wasn't like that initially, Brooke protested. Preston pursued me when you were always working. He made me feel valued. The financial aspect came later. And the other women? The pattern of targeting wealthy, neglected wives? Was that spontaneous too? Color drained from Brooke's face. What are you going to do? I already did it, Nathan replied. The Lakeview property was transferred to a new holding company last week. Our joint accounts have been frozen pending criminal investigation. The house fund you emptied for Zoe's car triggered an automatic notification system I established years ago. You can't prove anything, Brooke said desperately. It's my word against yours. Nathan smiled without warmth. Actually, it's your word against documented evidence of conspiracy spanning 8 months. Preston's dealership records, bank transfer attempts, recorded conversations. They'll never prosecute a wife for accessing joint accounts, Brooke argued. Perhaps not for that alone, Nathan conceded, but for conspiracy to commit wire fraud across state lines? For multiple documented attempts using forged signatures? The federal prosecutor seemed quite confident. Brooke's composure finally shattered. What about Zoe? You destroy her mother's life. You did that yourself, Nathan replied, rising. Zoe is currently at Bellamy Communications, learning what genuine mentorship looks like. Howard is keeping her there until this initial phase concludes. Initial phase? Brooke echoed. The demolition, Nathan explained. Before rebuilding can begin, unstable structures must be removed completely. Chapter 7. Clearing the site. The following weeks unfolded with the precision of a well-engineered blueprint. Preston remained in custody, denied bail due to flight risk after investigators discovered packed suitcases and multiple passports in his apartment. The evidence against him mounted daily as other victims came forward, encouraged by Nathan's public stand. Brooke, released on bail after her initial arrest, found herself ostracized from the social circles she'd cultivated. The country club membership, always in Nathan's name, had been revoked. Credit cards were canceled. The luxury car had been impounded as evidence of fraudulent acquisition. Nathan moved into the apartment above his workshop at the Cornerstone headquarters, leaving Brooke alone in the house that had once represented their shared dream. He arranged for Zoe to stay with his sister temporarily, providing distance from both parents during the upheaval. 2 weeks after the arrests, Nathan sat across from his attorney reviewing settlement terms. She's asking for half of everything, Christine said, sliding paperwork across the desk. Standard in a long-term marriage. Her attorney argues that despite recent events, she contributed to your success for over 20 years. Nathan studied the documents. What's your assessment? Honestly, the criminal charges complicate matters significantly in your favor. The documented conspiracy to defraud you of millions creates exceptional circumstances. No judge will view this as a routine division of assets. And the house. You could fight for it, but I'm not sure it's worth the battle given your other holdings. Strategic concessions can expedite resolution. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. I'm not interested in dragging this out. Draft a counterproposal with these parameters. She keeps the house, but assumes the remaining mortgage. No alimony given the criminal proceedings. Division of non-business assets excluding the Lakeview property, which was purchased through Reynolds Foundations LLC, not personally. Christine made notes. What about Zoe? She's 20, legally an adult. But I want provisions for her education expenses to be paid directly to the institutions, not through either parent. As Nathan left the attorney's office, his phone rang with Zoe's ringtone. Dad, can we meet somewhere? I need to talk to you. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe near Howard Bellamy's offices. Zoe arrived looking more like her former self, the designer clothes replaced by practical business attire, her expression more grounded than he'd seen in months. How's the internship? Nathan asked after they'd ordered. Challenging. Mr. Bellamy has me researching market demographics, not just posting on social media. She fidgeted with her napkin. I saw Mom yesterday. Nathan remained silent, allowing her to continue. She tried to convince me this is all a misunderstanding. That Preston manipulated her too. Zoe looked up, eyes glistening. But I've seen the evidence. The texts about me. About how to use me against you. I'm sorry you had to see that, Nathan said quietly. No, I needed to see it. Zoe straightened her shoulders. Mom said you're being unnecessarily harsh. That families forgive each other. What do you think? Nathan asked. I think. Zoe hesitated. I think forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting consequences. Mr. Bellamy says accountability is essential to integrity. Nathan studied his daughter, seeing flashes of the thoughtful young woman she'd been before Preston's influence. Howard's a wise man. I want to earn back your trust, Zoe said suddenly. Not with words, with actions. That's a good place to start, Nathan acknowledged. Speaking of actions, what should we do about the car? Zoe's expression hardened. Sell it. Use the money to repay what was taken from your house fund. Our house fund, Nathan corrected gently. It was meant for all of us. After their meeting, Nathan drove to the Lakeview property, 40 acres of pristine lakefront land with mountain views. The architectural plans he'd originally commissioned featured a sprawling family compound with separate wings for entertaining, a boathouse, and dedicated spaces for future grandchildren. Standing on the shoreline, Nathan unfolded the revised blueprints his team had developed. The new design was smaller, more sustainable, focused on a single occupant with flexible space for visitors rather than permanent family accommodations. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Detective Mercer. Kessler talking. Implicating partners in 3 states. Your wife's involvement appears limited to the last 8 months, as you suspected. Another text followed from Christine. Brooke counteroffered. Wants the house, half your retirement accounts, and ongoing support for 10 years. Nathan replied, reject. Original offer stands. As sunset painted the lake in amber hues, Nathan called Howard Bellamy. How's my daughter performing? Finding her footing, Howard replied. Showed real insight in yesterday's strategy meeting. Once she stopped trying to impress everyone and started applying herself, genuine talent emerged. That's good to hear. She asked about working through the weekend to catch up on industry knowledge, Howard added. Quite a shift from the entitled young woman you described initially. People can rebuild, Nathan observed, looking across the water, if the foundation is sound. The following Monday, Nathan received notification that Preston had accepted a plea deal, implicating Brooke and 2 other associates in exchange for reduced charges. The prosecutor called to discuss next steps. Mrs. Reynolds' attorney is pushing for a similar arrangement, she explained. Minimum charges in exchange for cooperation against bigger fish in their network. What's your recommendation? Nathan asked. Frankly, let her deal. We're more interested in the interstate operation than pursuing maximum penalties against your wife. Nathan considered this. I won't object to a reasonable plea arrangement, provided the financial restitution remains intact. That evening, as Nathan reviewed construction bids for the Lakeview project in his temporary apartment, a knock came at the door. He opened it to find Brooke, looking diminished without her usual perfect styling and designer clothes. May I come in? She asked quietly. Nathan stepped aside wordlessly. Brooke glanced around the sparse space, so different from the luxurious home they'd shared. My attorney says you're being surprisingly reasonable about settlement terms. I'm not interested in punishment, Nathan replied. Just resolution. Resolution, Brooke repeated. Is that what you call destroying the life we built? Nathan's expression hardened. You destroyed that the moment you conspired with Preston to steal from our family. It wasn't supposed to go that far, Brooke protested. It started with him helping Zoe get a car. The rest evolved into fraud, theft, and conspiracy, Nathan finished. Into using our daughter as leverage against me. Brooke sank onto a chair. The prosecutor offered a deal. Probation, community service, and restitution if I testify against Preston's network. I won't object, Nathan confirmed. But don't mistake pragmatism for forgiveness. 22 years, Brooke whispered. Doesn't that count for anything? Nathan studied the woman he'd once pledged his life to. It counted for everything. That's why your betrayal warranted this response. After Brooke left, Nathan called Zoe. Your mother came to see me. She's likely taking a plea deal. Will she go to jail? Zoe asked, her voice small. Probably not. But there will be significant legal and financial consequences. A long silence followed before Zoe spoke again. Dad, can I ask you something difficult? Of course. Do you think people can truly change after betraying someone they love? Nathan considered the question carefully. People can change their actions, their choices. Whether that's enough depends on the betrayal and those affected by it. Could you ever forgive Mom? Or me? Forgiveness isn't the issue, Nathan explained. Trust is. Once fundamentally broken, it rarely rebuilds to its original strength. Like a compromised foundation, Zoe observed. Exactly. Sometimes the only option is to excavate completely and start fresh. Chapter 8. Breaking Ground. 3 months after Preston's arrest, Nathan stood in a courtroom watching as Brooke formally accepted her plea agreement. The judge reviewed the terms: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and restitution payments amounting to the full value of the misappropriated funds. Mrs. Reynolds, do you understand that this conviction will permanently remain on your record? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor, Brooke replied quietly. And that violation of any terms will result in immediate incarceration? I understand. Nathan observed dispassionately as the woman who had shared his life for over 2 decades accepted legal responsibility for her betrayal. Their divorce had been finalized a week earlier, with terms largely matching Nathan's initial offer. Brooke kept the house, but would be solely responsible for its considerable mortgage, a financial burden that would stretch her limited legitimate income. Outside the courthouse, Brooke approached him. It's done. Yes, Nathan agreed. I never thought it would end like this, she said, searching his face for any softening. Few ever do, Nathan replied. Foundations appear solid until they catastrophically fail. Always the builder, Brooke observed with a sad smile. I hope whatever you're constructing now brings you peace. As she walked away, Nathan felt no triumph, no vindication, only the quiet certainty that he had protected what mattered and removed what didn't. That afternoon, Nathan met Zoe for lunch. Her internship at Bellamy Communications had evolved into a part-time position while she completed her degree. Howard offered to extend my position through next semester, she announced. Said my content analysis has actual value to the company. Congratulations, Nathan said sincerely. You've earned it through merit, not manipulation. Zoe picked at her salad. I was in court this morning. In the back. Mom didn't see me. Nathan nodded, unsurprised. How do you feel about the outcome? Conflicted, Zoe admitted. Part of me thinks she got off too easily. Another part remembers her as the mom who came to every school event when you were working. Both perspectives can be true simultaneously, Nathan observed. People aren't solely their worst actions or their best. What about forgiveness? Zoe asked. Isn't that what you taught me growing up? I taught you about earned forgiveness, Nathan corrected. About making amends through actions, not just words. Has your mother done that? Zoe considered this. She keeps trying to explain rather than accept responsibility. Blaming Preston, circumstances, even you for working too much. Exactly. Real amends begin with complete accountability. Later that day, Nathan visited the Lakeview construction site, where foundation work had begun for his new home. Hector walked the property with him, reviewing progress. Structural steel arrives next week, Hector reported. We're ahead of schedule despite the design changes. Good, Nathan replied, surveying the concrete footings. Any issues with the soil composition? Nothing unexpected. The additional core samples confirmed adequate bearing capacity. As they discussed technical details, Nathan's phone rang, Preston's attorney. Mr. Reynolds, my client wishes to speak with you before sentencing next week. For what purpose? Nathan asked coolly. He has information he believes would interest you. About your ex-wife's activities before his involvement. Nathan considered this. Arrange it through Detective Mercer. I'll hear him out. 2 days later, Nathan sat across from Preston in a conference room at the county jail. The once polished salesman looked diminished in his jumpsuit, his confident demeanor replaced by desperate calculation. Thank you for coming, Preston began. I know you have no reason to do me any favors. I'm not, Nathan replied flatly. Detective Mercer suggested your information might have investigative value. Preston leaned forward. Brooke approached me, not the other way around. That contradicts your earlier statements. I lied to reduce my culpability, Preston admitted. The truth is, Brooke had already attempted similar schemes with 2 previous partners. She identified me at the country club as a potential accomplice because of my sales position. Nathan remained impassive. You expect me to believe my wife of 22 years was the mastermind? Not initially, Preston clarified. Her first attempt was with a financial advisor 3 years ago. Small withdrawals, testing boundaries. When that relationship ended, she tried again with a real estate agent. I was her 3rd attempt, but the first to reciprocate fully. Do you have evidence of these claims? Preston slid a paper across the table. Names, dates, amounts. The prosecutor has verified some details already. Nathan studied the document, recognizing several unexplained financial discrepancies from years earlier. Inconsistencies he'd attributed to his own accounting oversights or Brooke's occasional impulse purchases. Why tell me this now? Nathan asked. Sentencing is next week, Preston replied with a shrug. My attorney says the judge might view my cooperation favorably. Besides, you deserve to know the full truth. After leaving the jail, Nathan called Detective Mercer. How much of Preston's new story checks out? Enough to be concerning, Mercer replied. We've confirmed meetings with both men he named. Financial records show unusual patterns during those time frames. Not enough for charges given the statute of limitations, but consistent with his claims. Nathan drove to the lakefront property, needing solitude to process this revelation. The betrayal hadn't begun with Preston. It hadn't even begun with the house fund. The foundation of his marriage had been compromised years earlier without his knowledge. As sunset painted the half-built structure in golden light, Nathan's phone rang again. It was Brooke. Preston's talking again, she said without preamble. About things that happened before him. Is he lying? Nathan asked simply. A long silence followed. Not entirely, Brooke finally admitted. But it wasn't calculated like he's making it sound. I was lonely. You were always building something else, always focused on the next project. So you built your own projects, Nathan observed. Starting with our accounts. It wasn't like that, Brooke protested. It started with feeling valued by someone. The financial aspect came later. 3 separate times, with 3 separate men, Nathan noted. That's not coincidence. That's pattern. After ending the call, Nathan sat on a stack of lumber, watching as workers poured concrete for what would become his new home's foundation. Deeper, stronger, and more resilient than before. His phone chimed with a text from Zoe. Can we talk? Mom called with a strange story about Preston's new claims. Tomorrow, Nathan replied. Some revelations require processing time. That night, in his temporary apartment, Nathan reviewed financial records from the past 5 years with fresh perspective. The pattern emerged clearly once he knew what to look for. Small inconsistencies, explained away or obscured, gradually increasing in frequency and amount. The house fund withdrawal hadn't been an anomaly. It had been an escalation. By morning, Nathan had reached a decision that had been forming since the first discovery of betrayal. He called Christine. I want to amend the settlement, he stated, specifically regarding the house. That's unusual post-finalization, Christine cautioned. What changes are you proposing? I want it sold. Proceeds to be placed in trust for Zoe's education and future. Brooke receives nothing from it. On what grounds? The division has been court-approved. New evidence of prolonged financial misconduct predating the documented conspiracy, Nathan explained. I'll have supporting documentation to you this afternoon. After ending the call, Nathan drove to Howard Bellamy's office where Zoe was waiting. Is it true? She asked immediately. About Mom and the other men? Partially confirmed, Nathan acknowledged. Detective Mercer is still investigating details. Zoe shook her head in disbelief. All those times she said you were too focused on work to notice her. She was already planning exit strategies. It appears so. What happens now? I'm petitioning to have the house sold, Nathan explained. Proceeds will be placed in trust for your future. Zoe's expression hardened with unexpected maturity. She doesn't deserve to keep it. Not after everything. Nathan studied his daughter, the entitled girl of months earlier replaced by a young woman facing difficult truths with clarity. The foundation matters, Nathan said simply. Everything built above depends on its integrity. Chapter 9, Solid Ground. 1 year after discovering Brooke's betrayal, Nathan stood on the deck of his completed lakefront home, watching sunrise paint the water in amber and gold. The structure bore little resemblance to the family compound he'd originally envisioned. Instead, it was a thoughtfully designed space for one, with room for visitors but no permanent accommodations for family. His phone chimed with a text from Zoe. Graduation ceremony, at 1 p.m. Front row ticket waiting for you. Nathan smiled, grateful that his relationship with his daughter had weathered the storm of the past year. After initial resistance, Zoe had embraced Howard Bellamy's mentorship, transforming from an entitled social media enthusiast to a focused marketing strategist. Her graduation from university marked not just academic achievement, but personal growth. As Nathan dressed for the ceremony, he reflected on the year's developments. Preston had received an 8-year sentence after additional victims came forward. Brooke, despite her attorney's objections, had ultimately lost the house when Nathan's petition succeeded. The court had been persuaded by evidence of her longer pattern of financial manipulation. Brooke now lived in a modest apartment and worked as an administrative assistant at a local business, her interior design dreams abandoned after former clients learned of her conviction. Their paths rarely crossed, and when they did, they exchanged only the minimum civility required. The courthouse steps where Nathan waited for Zoe after her graduation ceremony offered a symbolic location for their meeting, the same building where both Preston and Brooke had faced justice. "Congratulations, graduate," Nathan said, embracing her. "Howard mentioned your final project impressed the entire executive team." Zoe beamed. "They've offered me a full-time position starting next month. Earned through merit." Nathan noted with approval. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you," Zoe said, her expression sobering. "Mom asked to meet me for lunch. To celebrate." "That's between you and her," Nathan replied evenly. "I told her no," Zoe continued. "I said I already had plans with you. With family I can trust." Nathan studied his daughter's resolute expression. "That's a difficult boundary to establish." "You taught me about foundations," Zoe replied. "About how everything depends on their integrity." Mom compromised hers repeatedly. "Actions have consequences." As they walked toward Nathan's truck, a familiar voice called out, "Zoe, wait." Brooke approached, clutching a gift bag, her expression hopeful. "I just wanted to give you this. For graduation." Zoe hesitated, then accepted the package with careful distance. "Thank you. I thought maybe we could get coffee sometime," Brooke suggested. "Just to talk." "Maybe someday," Zoe replied neutrally. "But not yet." Brooke turned to Nathan, her eyes pleading. "You've turned her against me completely." "I didn't need to," Nathan observed calmly. "Your actions accomplished that independently." "It's been a year," Brooke protested. "People make mistakes. Families forgive." "Forgiveness is possible," Nathan acknowledged. "Restoration of trust is a different matter entirely." "And you'll never trust me again," Brooke stated flatly. "Would you?" Nathan asked simply. Later that evening, as Nathan and Zoe shared dinner on his lakefront deck, she asked the question that had clearly been bothering her. "Do you ever regret how thoroughly you destroyed her life? The house, her reputation, everything?" Nathan considered this carefully. "I didn't destroy anything. I simply removed what was compromised and rebuilt on solid ground." "The builder's philosophy," Zoe noted with a small smile. "It applies beyond construction," Nathan replied. "In business, relationships, life, foundations matter. Compromise them at your peril." "Howard says something similar about brand integrity," Zoe observed. "Once damaged, rebuilding public trust requires extraordinary effort, and the result is never quite the same." Nathan nodded in agreement. "Some damage can't be undone, only contained and built around." As sunset painted the lake in deepening colors, Nathan's phone buzzed with an email notification. Final confirmation that Brooke's restitution payments had been completed as ordered by the court. A chapter formally closed. "What's next for you?" Zoe asked. "The business is thriving. This place is finished. What will you build now?" Nathan gazed across the water, considering. "Something new. Something unconstrained by compromised foundations or flawed designs." "Alone?" Zoe asked hesitantly. Initially, Nathan acknowledged. "Trust requires verification before investment. I've learned that lesson thoroughly." Later that night, after Zoe had departed for a celebration with classmates, Nathan stood at the edge of his property watching moonlight dance across the water. The house behind him represented not just shelter but philosophy, built on integrity, designed with purpose, standing firm against both elements and entropy. He thought briefly of Brooke, of 22 years suddenly revealed as partially fraudulent, of Preston, whose practiced charm had concealed calculated predation, of the careful plans they'd made to extract his wealth through manipulation of his own daughter. Nathan felt no satisfaction in their downfall, no vindication in his triumph. Only the quiet certainty that comes from removing compromise and rebuilding with integrity. His phone chimed with a text from Detective Mercer. "Final case closed today. Thought you'd want to know." "Appropriate timing," Nathan replied. "New chapters beginning here as well." As he turned toward his solitary but solid home, Nathan reflected that some might view his unforgiving stance as harsh, ruthless even. But in his experience, structures built on compromised foundations inevitably collapsed, often with greater damage than if they'd been deliberately demolished and properly rebuilt. Forgiveness might be an admirable aspiration, but trust required verification. And some betrayals, once revealed, could never be unseen or forgotten, only acknowledged, contained, and built around with clear-eyed resolve. The lake house stood as testimony to that philosophy, smaller than originally planned, but fundamentally sound. Designed not for the family that had betrayed its architect, but for the builder himself, who understood better than most that integrity wasn't negotiable. It was, quite simply, foundational. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.